This is the Awkward GM Corbin and Theo, and today we are going to be taking Theo's character from Chronicles of Darkness and making it a Werewolf the Forsaken character. Thank you to my patron Echo for supporting the channel. We already made our character Polonious Dewberry in a previous video for how to make a mortal character, and now we're going to convert him to a werewolf character. Let's go over the broad strokes of what werewolves get that mortals don't. Werewolves start with 3 additional dots of merits. Merits, again, are akin to feats. Additionally, werewolves will start with 5 different forms: a human form, a near-human form, a half-wolf form, a near-wolf form, and a full wolf form. Werewolves have an Auspice, which is the type of werewolf you are. This is akin to a werewolf's class, which correspond to warrior, bard, shaman, rogue, and cleric, though the last one could be more of a judge. I'll try and have the names up here so that you know what I'm talking about in that regard. Werewolves have 2 personality traits, or archetypes, which replace the virtue and vice from mortals. They get the bone, which is how their werewolf acts when they can be logical, and they get the blood, which is how their werewolf acts on instinct. Werewolves have a physical and a spiritual touchstone. These can be people, places, or objects that keep them grounded in reality or in the spiritual world, respectively. This is sort of a building block for your character's backstory. They gain various supernatural powers known as gifts that they can use with their essence resource, which they get from eating spirits, people, as well as from other sources. This is akin to their class powers from something like Dungeons & Dragons. They gain a power stat known as Primal Urge, which represents how powerful their werewolf trait is. It's akin to a level in Dungeons & Dragons. And lastly, they replace their Integrity stat for Harmony, which represents how close they are to the physical or spiritual worlds, depending on how high or low it is. Lastly, werewolves get something called Renown, which sort of acts as a mini power stat that has 5 different flavors. I'm going to go into more detail about this later on, but just know that this is something they have access to. Later on in the video, I'm going to go over the benefits and the weaknesses of being a werewolf. You can skip ahead to the timestamp below if you want to do that, or you can just go back to it later. Please support the channel through Patreon. If we hit the $15 a month threshold, I will be doing a review of the Princess the Hopeful Fansplat game. So Theo, are you excited now to start building your werewolf character? You get some awesome abilities. I'll go over them. Based on the example archetypes in the book, Theo's chosen Challenger as his character's blood, as it works well for a competitive boxer. And he's chosen Cub as his bone, as he's still learning the ins and outs of being a werewolf. For Touchstones, he chose his boxing manager to be his physical touchstone, and for his spiritual touchstone, he chose the wilds, which means that the wilderness will call to him. Polonious' tribe is going to be the Bone Shadows, which hunt spirits. This means his tribal renown is going to be Wisdom, and he's going to be able to purchase starting gifts from either the Death, Element, or Insight categories. Polonious' Auspice is going to be Araka, which means his Auspice renown is Cunning, and he gets access to the Evasion and Stealth gifts. Arakas start with the New Moon gifts. Unlike tribes, Auspice allows you to choose an Auspice skill. For Arakas, that means either the Larceny, Stealth, or Subterfuge skills. Theo decided to go with Stealth, which gives him an extra dot in that skill at character creation, which puts him at 1 dot of Stealth. That's not great, especially for Arakas, which are notorious for being stealthy characters. Arakas have the Hunter aspect of Blissful, which can be used to cause the unaware condition on a target. Polonious starts with 3 Renown. Renown has to be taken from their Auspice and their tribe first. So Theo is going to take 1 dot of Cunning because of being an Araka, and 1 dot of Wisdom for being a Bone Shadow. He gets a free Renown that he can pick from any of the other Renowns, and even Cunning and Wisdom if he'd like, but instead he's going to pick 1 dot of Honor as his extra Renown. I tried my best to create an image that will help explain what gifts are. Essentially, you have your gift, which is the category of abilities you're choosing from. And then within the gift are the abilities, and you have facets, each facet being attached to a different renown type. Werewolves start with 1 moon gift per dot of their Auspice renown. Since Theo is an Araka, their Auspice Renown is Cunning, and since he only has 1 dot of it, he's going to get the Eviscerate Facet, which is one of my favorite abilities in the game, and I love Arakas. Because of his tribe and Auspice, he can choose 2 facets from either of the Evasion, Stealth, Death, Element, or Insight gifts, but they have to be associated with either his Cunning, Wisdom, or Honor Renown. For instance, he cannot take a Purity facet because he does not have a Purity Renown. He's decided to go with the Shadow Pelt facet in the Gift of Stealth, as it will help keep him hidden. For his second ability, he's chosen Heart of Water, which is from the Elemental Gifts. This lets him bend water, just like in Avatar: The Last Airbender or Legend of Korra. And because he only has 1 dot in his Auspice Renown of Cunning, he doesn't get an extra Moon gift facet. Instead, he can choose a Wolf gift. And for this, he has chosen the Chain gift facet called Luna's Embrace. This lets him shapeshift from a male character to a female character if he wishes. Werewolves start with 2 dots of rites, which are essentially long rituals that have effects that can last for a very long time. And why not take the best rite of them all, the Sacred Hunt, also known as the Sisker Da. This effect mostly acts as a way to get extra beats for killing prey, but it also gives you a bonus depending on what tribe your Rite Master is. Because Theo is a Bone Shadow, him and all of his allies get the ability to hurt ephemeral entities they otherwise wouldn't be able to hurt, such as spirits, ghosts, and angels in Twilight. Like vampires, werewolves get 10 dots of merits, 3 more than mortals, which means we can pick up 3 dots of werewolf merits because we've already picked the 7 when we were making our mortal character. Now normally you can just pick 10 dots worth of werewolf merits, but I just want to speed this section up a bit. Theo's chosen Hearing Whispers, which is a Bone Shadow's merit that allows him to know persistent conditions on people as he examines them, as well as their weaknesses. He also took a dot of Totem so that he can assist with the pack's totem. Not only does this give him a bonus when interacting with the pack's totem, but it also helps him buff the benefits that the totem can hand out to other pack members. A quick note, totem spirits are sort of like the mascot of your pack, and they give everyone in your pack a bonus, something like an extra skill specialty or a merit. Here are the last few things that Theo needs to do for his character. His harmony needs to start at 7 because that's where starting werewolf characters start at, unless you're doing a first change game, which is when they immediately turn into a werewolf, in which case that would be 9. His starting essence is going to start at 7, his primal urge is going to start at 1, and he's going to start with a set of death rage triggers which cause his character to go into a blind rage while transformed. In this case, Theo's going to choose the pack as his trigger, as Polonious will be very close to his werewolf family and doesn't want to see any harm done to them. And now, if harm gets done to them and it covers one of his triggers, that means he's going to go into Death Rage, which means he's going to go into a werewolf form, usually the killing form. I believe he progresses up, and once he gets into the killing form, he's just going to start killing people randomly, and it can be very detrimental to you. Going into Death Rage basically means that your character is going to be rampaging randomly and possibly hurting people that they love in the process. This can be very detrimental to a character's psyche. I'm going to try and quickly go down through the benefits of being a werewolf. For one, you're going to be able to regenerate bashing damage per turn based on your primal urge, unless you're in Garu form, in which case it's a lot better. You can spend a point of essence to make that bashing damage that you heal lethal damage instead. And as your primal urge increases, so does your werewolf's ability to track prey. Your primal urge penalizes the toxicity rating of any poison or disease that afflicts them. Physical tilts can be healed when the wound that caused the tilt is healed. Only supernatural powers or silver can cause aggravated damage to werewolves unless it rolls over, so they could take a hit from a nuclear weapon and it won't cause them aggravated damage, except if it's downgraded to bashing or it's lethal, it's going to stack up, basically. Only supernatural powers, I did that one already. Werewolves have multiple types of senses, including their human sense, wolf sense, and spirit sense. Spirit sense allows them to see across to the spirit world, but any perception rolls are penalized by the gauntlet's strength. and they can also see spirits in twilight without rolling unless the spirit is trying to hide. Now, they also have the various forms that they can take, which they can transform into as an instant or reflexive action depending on their harmony level. In their Hishu or human form, they get +1 to their perception rolls for wolf senses. They use Primal Urge as a penalty to avoid being spotted in crowds because they are a wolf in sheep's clothing. They have their Dalu form, which is sort of like a a near human form that's kind of werewolf-like. Their claws and teeth do lethal damage, and they can apply their defense against firearms. They get +2 to their wolf sense perception rolls, and they cause lunacy at +2. They also gain the ability Badass Motherfucker, which can be used to stop people from helping your targets. Water break. Garu form is the killing form. Their claws and bites do +2 lethal damage. They can apply their defense against firearms. They get a +3 wolf sense perception roll. They have a -2 to lunacy rolls. They must attack or risk going into death rage. They use down and dirty combat rules against most mortals, lower spirits, and animals, and opponents only apply their dexterity or wits for their defense. They can't add any athletics or additional abilities. In their Urshul form, which is their near wolf form, their teeth do 2 lethal damage, their claws do 1 lethal damage, and they apply defense against firearms. They inflict lunacy without bonus or penalty to the opponent. They have +3 to wolf sense perception rolls, and once per scene, they can apply a physical tilt to the target they damage. Their Urhan/wolf form, their bites do 1 lethal, and they have a 4+ to their wolf sense perception rolls. They can spend 1 essence to interrupt another character's action in combat, and they use their speed as a dice pool in chases. Now, I did mention that they cause lunacy. That lunacy penalty or bonus is to the human that witnesses them, not for themselves. Each Auspice has a hunter's aspect that they can apply a negative condition to an enemy. Werewolves can flare their renowns to allow a target to benefit on a roll against them so that they can get automatic successes on a future roll. Werewolves can cross the gauntlet so long as they are using a loci or their harmony is in an extreme high or extreme low end of the spectrum. This depends on whether or not they're also going from the material to the shadow for low harmony or from the shadow to the material for high harmony. They can use their essence to activate fetishes. The more renown a werewolf has determines their effective spiritual rank, or spirit rank, which allows them to make their unarmed attacks do aggravated damage to spirits of 2 ranks or lower than them. Let's see if I can do the weaknesses a little bit faster. The number 1 weakness for werewolves is silver. It does aggravated damage to them if it's used as a weapon, but merely touching it causes pain and scarring that looks like it's aggravated damage to a forsaken werewolves. Pure werewolves actually take aggravated damage just by touching silver. Lunacy is a term I've used to describe what happens to mortals when they see a werewolf in their supernatural forms or change shape. Most of the time, mortals will end up in disbelief of what they've just seen and disregard it as a hallucination, but if the stress is too much, they risk becoming a wolf-blooded. Death rage is when a werewolf is so blinded by their bestial instincts that they are a rampaging monster. This can be triggered by being hurt by silver, staying in Garu form for too long or outside of combat, or being forced into it by an Elodoth. Each werewolf also has a personal trigger for their death rage, such as smelling, tasting, and or swallowing blood of humans, depending on your harmony level. As primal urge increases, your werewolf is restricted on what food it can digest for nourishment. How long they can go without hunting increases the duration of their death rage and increases the probability of inflicting lunacy on humans when they go into one of their non-human or wolf forms. At low harmony, they need to have to spend an action to refrain from transforming, and they also gain bands like spirits. At high harmony, their clothes do not change with their forms. The amount of time a werewolf can be in control of their Garu form depends on their harmony rating. At harmony 10, you can't leave the material world at all. At harmony 0, you can't leave the spirit world at all. Hopefully that sounded like words and not just a string of consciousness. If I've missed any of the strengths or weaknesses of werewolves, please let me know in the comments below. The book is big and there's a lot of stuff hidden in the sidebars and everything and paragraphs of text. So Theo, are you ready for your werewolf character? Are you excited to play him? Well, next up we're going to be doing a mage character, so maybe you'll get more excited for that one. That one you can control the world. Anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one. Say goodbye, Theo. Goodbye.